A recent report has come out highlighting the truth behind Miami Heat trades plans this upcoming trade deadline that is only a couple of days away. So to break down that report and discuss what exactly it entails, we'll also discuss Terry Rozier. He's spoken out on his struggles so far with the Miami Heat regarding his shooting. So stay tuned for all that in this episode of Heat Digest. Before we do, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. About 97.8% of you who are watching aren't subscribed, and we are so close to 1,000 subscribers, less than 200 away. So scroll down if you aren't already, hit that button. We're about 175 away, so it mean the world if you could do that for us. Now, Houston, let's get right into the first topic today, which is the Heat trade plans have been revealed, and it's not the most telling thing in the world, and it seems very, I would say, adequate. It seems exactly what we suspect would happen with the Miami Heat because they're very tight-lipped. We never really know what was going to happen. We heard some rumblings before the Terry Rozier trade, but nothing really happened until it obviously came to fruition, and here's what the exact report says. It came out, I believe, yesterday. So an NBA source on the Miami Heat's trade deadline plans. They say no one knows what Miami is going to do next week, which is now this week, which is 2 days away. And it basically goes on to say that according to one NBA source, the jury is still out on what exactly the Miami Heat plans are for the trade deadline, which is 2 days away. Now, this is a good thing and a bad thing because obviously the good side is they're not shutting down any potential big moves. They obviously made their bigger splash, and they already made as big of a move as you would suspect them to make before the deadline, acquiring Terry Rozier. But now, who knows what their next step is? What are your thoughts on this? And I'm going to get into a couple of other things regarding what, I guess, targets we could want. But are you satisfied with this report, or do you think it's about lined up with what the Heat have done every trade deadline, where no one really knows what they're going to do until they do it?
It makes sense to me. It really does because Miami, like you said, it seems like this is a year after year type of thing. No one really knows until the day of the deadline what Miami's really total thought process was going into the deadline. But again, Miami is sitting in such a weird spot because we need a few pieces. We really do. I don't know. It could be minimized to one piece if we did get the right big man to support the paint defensively and be able to rebound and block shots. But again, we don't know if we'll go out and get someone like Nick Claxton or someone along the lines of maybe even a PJ Tucker or Dorian Finney-Smith. But we've talked about all those guys before on previous videos. You know how we all feel about them. But again, we don't know what Miami's really going to do. And at the amount of talent they currently have on the roster currently constructed, they have a lot of options. They really do. We have decent, if not good depth going all the way down the bench, as well as a great starting unit, at least on paper. I know things haven't clicked all up until this point, but again, the talent is on the team and they have a lot of capabilities, whether they do want to hold on to the pieces they have or even move a few and
Yeah.
go get a few other pieces.
Yeah, and we know that they can't afford to bring Caleb Martin back, so he's been one heavily involved in trade talks. And I think this, essentially what this means is maybe if some of the prices of some of these guys goes down, whether that's from the Brooklyn Nets where they're asking a king's ransom for every one of their players, whether it's Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe if the price goes down, they'll be looking into that. Because we've seen a lot of reports as well come out that, I mean, the Heat are going to be buyers. We would suspect even more so. Like, they're targeting a lot of players. PJ Tucker, we'll make another video on that coming out soon. They're reportedly interested in him, which we already know. Dorian Finney-Smith, all of these guys. Nick Claxton, which is one I actually have the stats for, which we'll get into in a second. But all these guys, if they become available for cheaper than 2 first-round picks for a decently mid-bench role player, I think the Heat have to be all over it. And if not, I think they might satisfy with a guy like PJ Tucker.
Yeah, PJ Tucker, I think ever since the beginning of this trade, all the trade speculation started for the Miami Heat. I've always loved PJ Tucker as a player for the Miami Heat, not just the way he plays on the basketball court. He can hit open threes, but he's also willing to defend no matter who is in front of him, but also the mentality and the energy that he brings. He's a legitimate dog type of player. He's always willing to do whatever is needed whatever is asked of him, I should say, whatever team he is on.
Yeah, and he would not cost very much at all. Now, I
Yeah.
got Nick Claxton here because we think about the dream scenario now, and I think a lot of fans in the comments kind of agree with us. We need a big man first and foremost, and I think Nick Claxton, if available, would be probably the best one that, at least for this Heat team to slide in, whether that's off the bench or probably starting. 12 points, 10 rebounds, 2 or 3 blocks. Elite defender, can't space the floor at all, which is a bit unfortunate, but the Heat do have plenty of spacers. He would elevate the team's defense a lot, elevate their defensive floor, helping kind of cover up some decently mid-level defensive players, and Tyler Hero, those guys, Terry Rozier, Jaime Jaquez Jr. What are your I mean, we've already know this, but I think if they're going to make a move, Claxton would be the guy. Any quick thoughts on this before we move on? I just want to throw this out there because I think we all agree at this point that the Heat need a big man, and hopefully that's what this report is indicating, that if a big man comes up, they will go for him.
Yeah, Claxton, I think, is the best option we have available. I've thrown out Drummond's name a bunch of
Yeah.
times, but again, he's not as active. He's not as young. He's not as athletic as someone like Nick Claxton. Claxton had 7 blocks. I believe it was last night in Brooklyn's game, or it might have been 2 nights ago. But again, he brings the defensive capabilities and abilities that we really need on for Miami. They need someone to block be able to defend the rim accurately and effectively while being able to rebound. I know he's not a great free throw shooter, and that's a huge problem when it comes to these big men. But once again, he'd be sitting next to Bam in the starting lineup, pushing Bam back to the power forward spot, which would really help as our offense would change even more. And again, our rotation would get bigger as if Claxton did come to the Miami Heat, regardless of what we did give up, he would be in the starting lineup. There's no way he'd be coming off the bench. And obviously, Bam's not moving to the bench spot. So he'd be moving back to his starting power forward position, and we'd have a bunch more defense as well as just length overall, and we would improve greatly on the defensive side of things, especially around the rim, which is
Yeah.
what we need.
I would love it. Drummond could be an
Yeah.
alternative. Maybe package him if you get DeMar DeRozan, get both of them and throw an extra, I don't know, whatever it takes, second round pick. But let's know your thoughts
Yeah.
on that. And I think we all agree that Nick Claxton is the guy we want. Now let's move on to Terry Rozier speaks out on the struggles. The Heat have been they've been okay. Rozier has been good in everything you thought he wouldn't necessarily be striving to be good in coming into Miami, but it is starting to make some sense. So Terry Rozier, this was yesterday or today, this morning, eye-opening shooting slump admission after the Hornets Heat trade, and he goes on to say that, quote, "I don't try to get too much into myself. I'm a team player. You look at the end, you worry about wins and losses. I'm not happy that we got the loss today." This was yesterday, but like or a couple days of last game. But like I said, I'm my toughest critic. I just got to keep putting in the work, and it's going to fall for me. Houston, I love the mentality of them. You can look at the stats here: 11 points a game so far for the Heat, which is less than half of what he averaged at the Hornets, which is expected to a degree, but was not expected is him shooting 21% from three and 33% from the field. It's unfortunate. It's I think everything's going to be okay. You had Richardson, Eric Spoelstra talk out and speak out saying it's never easy changing. Part of it is you just got to keep shooting, shoot yourself out of the slump. What are your thoughts on this? You've been of the mindset. We've both been of the mindset. Rozier will be fine, and it is good he's doing the little things and still contributing to a winning culture, even though he might not be contributing to wins directly on the offensive side of things.
Yeah, the shooting percentages have been absolutely abysmal for Terry Rozier and really Tyler Hero and a few other Miami Heat players, especially over the last week or so. But again, Rozier, he's only played what now 5 games for the Miami Heat. Again, we haven't won a lot of games with him yet. But again, let things go, let things come to fruition first before we start just selling on what we believe could happen for the Miami Heat. Terry Rozier, like you said, he's done a great job of accepting and acknowledging what has not worked and that it's just not looked great with the Miami Heat up to this point. But again, it's not like he's just like sailing away and shipping it all off here because of how his recent play has. It seems like he's still a believer in not just himself, but the system in which he's playing in the Miami organization. I think that things will turn around. His shooting percentages will increase or at least get back to what we're accustomed to seeing or even expected. I wouldn't be surprised if his points don't go up drastically. Again, he's surrounded by a bunch of great offensive weapons, especially in Miami. I wouldn't be surprised if he got around that 15 to 18 point mark. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if his assist numbers stayed at least where they were, if not grew even higher, as he's facilitating the ball greatly, especially since coming from Charlotte.
Yeah, we know he's going to be fine. We
Yeah.
also mentioned it when the trade happened, the day that it happened, that his points will probably be between the 15 and 18, and I think that
Yeah.
is what it's looking like given his volume. That'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all of this, and make sure to hit the subscribe button. We'll have you covered for the latest news. The deadline is now 2 days away. See you tomorrow.